And here to talk to me about the used car industry is Lauren Fix, automotive expert for Car Coach Reports. Now, there's reports that are saying car prices are going up, but on the other hand, there's also reports saying car prices, used car prices that is, are going down. Now, what are you seeing? Are they going up or are they going down?
Well, here's the reality of it. The wholesale prices, when the dealers buy amongst themselves, whether they go to auction or they use something like ACV auctions, that price has dipped a little bit. But the retail price has not altered. And in some cases, if it's a high demand vehicle like a 3-row SUV or a luxury SUV, those prices have actually gone up. So it depends what you're looking at. Pickup trucks, SUVs, they're very popular right now. If you're looking for a car, you might be able to find some deals. Again, a lot of it's timing, how long the vehicle's been sitting on the lot. But if you look at the actual numbers that are coming off the auction blocks, you're seeing that the prices have dipped a bit, which means the profit margin for each of the dealer groups, whether it be a dealer or a used car lot, has increased.
I mean, this dip, is it significant because used car prices is part of the CPI, Consumer Price Index, for inflation, right? Is it going to help bring down inflation?
No, it's not at all. Actually, you may see the price dip just a teeny bit, but it's going to go back up because it has to do with supply and demand. When the demand is high, which it was, people couldn't get new cars, so they switched to used cars. So hence you saw the prices go through the roof. And dealers were taking advantage of that. Manufacturers were taking advantage of that. Now we have a limited still supply of product coming in. Remember, a lot of these parts come out of China. You've got parts for catalytic converters that come out of Russia, wiring harnesses out of the Ukraine and other areas. We're still having no resolution there. We still have a chip shortage, believe it or not. 3 years in, this should have been resolved. But the chip manufacturers are trying to build in the U.S., and it takes about 5 years from the time they decide to build a plant in the U.S. to the time they actually produce their first, what we call in our industry, a legacy chip. So when you're thinking about a chip, you might be thinking of something small like a SD card or of the chips that are in your phone. They're much larger when it comes to a car. They're an older design, and it's very difficult for a brand to just do a complete switch. So until we can catch up on the supply chain, everything from logos of names, like Ford couldn't get logos for the front of their trucks. They're not going to sell trucks without the Ford logo on it. So you're starting to see that kind of thing is still in play, which means limited supply. So they're building high luxury brand cars. So what does that mean for you as a consumer? If they're building more luxury, fully loaded cars, and you're looking to buy a car that doesn't have a lot of options, maybe a work truck or just for budget reasons, you're going to find that that's going to be difficult for you to find cars. So used cars have still hold their value, and the used car dealers are well aware of that. And you're still seeing lots filled with mostly used cars.
And on that point, are we seeing cases where people are buying used cars at a higher price than what the car is actually worth?
Well, that's one of the things you have to be very careful of. It's one of those things that consumers have to realize that, hey, I really want a Lexus and I want it fully loaded. And you may have to shop around. And maybe you think that's the vehicle because you find it on one lot. You really need to shop around because the fact is that vehicle could sit for a while. And that would be your opportunity to go back. If it's been sitting there 2-3 weeks, still hasn't sold, or 2-3 months, then you're going to have a better opportunity for you. And also the end of the month, that's when they want to get rid of vehicles because that's what they have something called floor planning. They pay the financing to the bank. If at the end of the month they haven't sold it, they have to pay financing for the whole month, which is why the first day of the month is a bad time to buy. You want to buy later on.
Are used car prices ever going to go back to the prices that we were used to before the rise?
Well, that is a very good question because I think that's what people are waiting for. I think until this recession, which we are in a recession, I have an economics degree. I will tell you, 101 first day, you learn what a recession is. And this is what we are in right now. And until that changes, I don't believe we're going to see softer prices for used cars. With more mandates coming from the federal government saying you have to buy an electric car or it's going to have more computer chips in it, people are very wary about this big data. So a lot of people are looking at used cars, and that used car value is still going to be in play. I'm thinking for at least another 2 to 3 years.
So you talked about the supply chain for chips. What is the main reason why car prices have risen?
Well, car prices have risen because of the mandate. So now federal government's saying, hey, you have to have a backup camera. You need forward collision warning. You need to have all these safety features. The vehicle has to meet certain EPA standards. And there's a fee for that. So the EPA fines the manufacturers for not meeting the corporate average fuel economy called CAFE. And so that price is not going to be absorbed by the manufacturer because they're taking a loss on every electric vehicle. So they have to make up the difference in their gas and hybrid powered vehicles. And that's why you're seeing the prices go up. Parts cost more, labor is costing more. Everything is costing more, from utilities to taxes. And every time prices increase, which is really what we're looking at here in a recession, that price is going to be passed down to the consumer. And it's passed down in literally everything, whether it be the car, the gasoline, your homes, everything you buy. If you go to the grocery store, you see things have gotten more expensive, and that's all part of the economy. And these are really important factors. And unless the next administration, whoever that may be, comes in and makes a massive change, we're not going to see any break to where we are now, only more accelerating prices.
So we're talking about used car prices or new car prices, but what about purchases? The number of purchases, have that gone up or gone down?
Well, the number of purchases has actually softened. During the pandemic, people decided they wanted cars. They lived in big cities, or maybe they were moving, and then they started buying cars, and that caused the used car market to just go crazy. Everything from online sites like Cars and Bids and eBay, everyone went crazy trying to build out like Vroom and Carvana. But now that that's softened a lot, you're seeing the impact of a lot of different of these online sites disappearing, and people are going back to the dealer. They're looking at cars. So I think right now, new car sales are only what the supply is. They're selling every single vehicle that they produce. They're not building vehicles like they have in the past, sat on lots for weeks and weeks and weeks. New cars are selling quickly. That's why people are looking at used cars. So when you're looking at new versus used cars, people are still looking at used cars. But what's odd about the whole thing is you can buy a used car at the same price as a new car. The problem is supply and demand.
Is that because of the rise in cost of living? Because maybe some people's budget are really, tight, so they opt for used cars instead of new ones.
Right. I think that people are looking at used cars, and or basically anytime you buy a brand new car, the moment you start it and drive it off the lot, you hit the depreciation. It can be as much as 40% that's lost in its total value. So if you turned around and said, "No, I'm going to sell it," you would lose up to, depending on what vehicle, up to 40% of its value. That's a lot. So people are thinking, I'm going to buy a used car. I'm going to save money because somebody else took the depreciation. And now I'm getting a great car that's fully loaded. The only thing is you don't get to choose the color and the options and so forth. But with more vehicles being loaded, and now we're coming into that 3-year lease window where people that bought new cars are trading them in from 2020. But now all those 2020 vehicles are now becoming available with a lot of options because that's all that was available.
And just one more question off the top of my head. Are people buying more combustion engine cars right now or electric cars?
Well, if you listen to the mainstream press, you would think that people are buying electric cars like crazy. The interest in them is there, but the purchase rate is still about 6% across the entire country. It's highest in California, 18%. You do get a $7,500 tax credit, and some leases, again, you have to do the homework. New rules went into place in April. So you may not get any tax credit at all, which is deterring people from purchasing them, which is why Tesla lowered their prices, because they're thinking, I'm going to try and get people to buy. We'll see his second quarter sales numbers coming out very soon. We're very curious to see how that's going to impact his stock as well. But as far as consumers, most people, 90% and more, are buying gas or hybrids. Now, hybrid plug-ins and hybrids at like a Prius, something like that, where it's got it on board and you don't have to plug in. Huge demand. I was talking to a Toyota manufacturer internal person. They said back before 2020, you couldn't sell a Prius. He says now everyone that's sold before it even gets off the truck.
All right, Lauren Fix, expert for Car Coach Reports. Pleasure speaking to you.
Thank you.